Good morning, afternoon, or whatever. I'm in my home little office here with my earphones and mic, and if I have to write anything, I have this little bamboo tablet and pen that I've connected to the computer so it writes on the screen. I have this little Epic pen over here that I can use to write on. It gives me a pencil, a highlighter. Theoretically, I could print or I can use lines, eraser, get rid of everything. I can also use a whiteboard here, and it looks like that, and write on that. So, a little bit of where I am, and I'm going to show you what I've been doing. I have a summer course that I'm teaching at my other school, or at a school. I try to have a little agenda board for the students for the Zoom lesson that I'm going to do, but I want to go over the kinds of things that I've done, and it might be useful to you or maybe not. Let's see how it works out. Now I'm using Screencast-O-Matic. There is a free program, but there's one that you pay $20 for the year and get all the various features. And you can look that up, screencastomatic.com. And there's some tutorials on YouTube that illustrate that in some detail. But here I am on my typical screen. I'm going to log into my UB account. So to save time, I've gone to Canvas. I'm going to log on to Canvas, and hopefully you've changed your password so you're able to be able to get on to the UB site. And there's the dashboard for the fall term. Now, what I want to look at is one of my old sections. So I'm going to go up over here to Courses, and down over here where it says All Courses, I'm going to click on that. And these are archived. So I go down through these, and I want to pick out the one I taught this spring term, which is this one. So I will click on that, and now it opens. And my students are there, and everything that I had on this site are there as well. And there is Google with their new screen coming up. Sorry about that. Okay, so what I want to look at and what I'm brainstorming about is how to do a program for the fall if I have to Zoom or even something you might use in the classroom. Now I know many of you are using MyLab and Mastering, so I'm going to click on that. Because the way we have it set it up in this course is to look at our assignments. And we don't use the study plan, and we don't use the quizzes. Let's try that again. And it just takes the time to work up. Okay. Now, we use what we call homework. And you can go in there and select the homework questions you want to represent a particular topic you're going to do, and then ask the students to do them. Now, we have about, for each of our lessons, which is a class period, 20 homework questions. And the way MathLab is set up, generally no two students have the exact same question, but it will have a sister of that question. The numbers are just changing. The concept is the same. So let's go to real numbers, which is a very basic introductory type of thing. And what I've done in the past is I've done the homework. So I made up a little notebook, wrote all the questions out, went through the answers of what I expected the students to do. Now, I think in order for this to be effective in any class, you're going to require a notebook. And in our classes, we have actually two notebooks, a homework notebook, in which they're going to do these examples. And we have a lecture notebook that I use for the flipped classroom lesson that I'll show you a little later. But right now we're thinking of what you might do in class through Zoom to engage the students. So you've got your homework questions. Now, since I've done them and I got them all right, because homework you can stay on one and get different examples until you do get it right. And again, I asked them to write this up in their notebook. We're going to do review and practice. Now, here are all the questions. So if I click on question number 1, and you might think, how many do you want to include in a program like this? And I decided for our Zoom lesson, in our classwork engagement participation relationship, I'm going to pick out 10 questions. So I click on this, and it tells me I've already done the homework, so it's not going to change my score. But again, you're not showing this to the student. This is what you would show to the student. Now, as we look at this, now this one has an answer. I can go down to the lower right and say, give me a similar question, because I want to practice. And there's a similar question. This is how homework is set up. The numbers have changed, but the kind of answer is the same. And they're looking for an integer. Now, what I do, I press on the Windows key and then capture this screen by hitting that and then this button. Notice it dimmed. So this picture has gone to my screenshot folder in pictures. And I did this for every odd example. So now I have 10 of them there. And I don't want to show you the whole process, but it's not difficult. It's sort of easy once you get the hang of it. Now, let's suppose you have all 10 of those screenshots saved. So now I'm going to go to my files, and I've clicked on the PowerPoint button, which is part of Microsoft Office 365, that is available, I believe, to all UB and other school faculty. It takes a while for the program to boot up, so we'll pause. Now, it took a while for it to load, but now it's loaded, and this is one of the latest versions, so it gives you lots of little bells and whistles. I'm just going to get a blank presentation. Click on that, and that'll take a while for it to load as well. So when it opens, I get something that looks like this. I have my initial title frame, but I want some more slides. So I'm going to go up over here and say, add a new slide. And that's running slow here today too. And it took a while for it to do it, but finally it did. And I typed in, let's say, what I want on my title page of the slide series that I'm going to call Lesson 1.1. Now, if you recall, I saved in the screenshots a picture of what I want for Lesson 1.1, my first example that I'll use during my Zoom lesson. So there's that blank slide. I go up here to where it says Insert, and then these options. I want to insert a picture, so I'll click on Picture. And again, many of you know this, but just in review, and it takes a while, again, running a little slowly today here. Now I'm going to go to my picture folder here, which is it's on, but that has to populate here. By the way, a nice thing, if you know a little bit about your picture, you can use this search bar here. It's just something I just learned recently here. So I'm going to go to screenshots. That would be a folder that would automatically open and where the pictures, when you take a screenshot, are saved. Click on that. And it takes a moment for that to open. There we go. No, it's going to all the pictures here. Well, let's try it again. Screenshots, double click. There they are. Now it's the last one I did, which was this one. So I click there and then I say insert. So what it will do is take that picture of the homework example and then insert it, and there it is. Now you're going to do that to all 10 slides. You're eventually going to save it as a PowerPoint series so that when later you call it up, all of these slides are in a row, and in using Screencast-O-Matic, you can actually capture just this part of the picture of your screen, monitor screen, that you want. You kind of outline, you say just capture this part. And then once you're in that, and for me, what I would do is something like this. So I'm going to take my pen from over here, click on it, and then come over here. It's got a little pencil, and it says, give a number that satisfies the given condition. So you're going to ask the students in their notebook to write this down. Let's say this is going to be example 1 or whatever. It might be 1A or something because they've already perhaps done some or will be doing some. So you want to number this in a unique way so you can see when you check their notes that they've done this. And you might say, well, for a background, what are the sets of numbers on the number line that would contain all real numbers? And then you pause and then wait for an answer. And you're able to pause this. Again, you might be in a Zoom class screen sharing mode where this is brought up and you're allowed to write on it. So you might say, well, there are natural numbers, there are whole numbers, there are integers, there are rational numbers, irrational numbers, and then all of the real numbers, which has this kind of a special thickened R for it. These aren't quite the symbols that we use, but for our little review. So you've done that little review. You've asked the student to have their mics muted, but now you're going to pick on John to answer this question. John, what would be the integer between these two numbers? And of course, on their screen, it would be a lot bigger than this. And they would say, well, we have an 11.8 and a 12 point something, and say the integer between that would be 12. Okay. And that would be the discussion and the engagement that you're having with this student. And you might ask Brenda, what's the definition of the natural number set? Or what do you need to add to natural numbers to make it whole numbers? You might ask, how do you write integers in roster notation? And again, this would be part of the lesson that you prepared and given them. Now, what I have done in my classes is I've made a series of lessons which I call flipped classroom lessons, where on video I give them the lesson based on a series of PowerPoint slides provided by the authors. And this is available for you as well if you want to go to that route. Okay, well, I don't want to make this too long, and I think I have covered my point of what I will be using this fall term and using a similar program in this summer school class that I have with my other school. Now I'm back to my Canvas class, and I'm in the section I taught this spring. And I'm going to go down here to where it says Panopto Recordings. Now what I've done, as I mentioned, is I've done lessons using the PowerPoint slides produced by Pearson. And of course, this is available for your course as well. So if you go, in my case, to Unit 1, which I tell the students, these are the 4 lessons. Now the one we just reviewed was this one, Lesson 1.1. Now this is something they would watch on their own time. And again, in their notes, take careful notes. So we'll look at this one a little bit and see what it's like. Now I prepared all of these, again, using the PowerPoint slides provided by the textbook. And using Screencast-O-Matic made this video presentation that I expect the students to watch and take notes. So we'll watch a little bit of it here. Into class, and we'll have our first quiz. And we'll give you more detail on that as we go on. Now in Unit 1, we cover these 4 sections. And you don't have to take any notes on anything so far. This is just background. Now, once you get to class, and this will be whenever we meet first, I will physically give you a lecture booklet. Okay, this is some of it, and then just paging through a little bit, I'm showing them what we do in our class. But then we go through the sets of numbers, and I expect them to write this information into their notes. Now, what we do for every lesson is follow up with an open notes quiz. And this is something you can make and put together however. I have them done already. I change them from semester to semester. Again, you could probably ask 100 questions, but we limit ourselves to 10 and then a bonus question. Kind of gives a little bit of motivation for students to get everything right. Okay, this is longer than I thought it was going to be, but I'm just throwing out these as possible ideas. Use what you want. And, things can always be improved, and even things that I do, I kind of tweak as I go along, and hopefully there is an improvement. And the students are successful at this, even before they had this pandemic and the circumstances we're going to be operating under. All right, wrap this up.